Thank you so much for joining for this In Conversation with series, which is organised by East Meets West. Today I'm going to be speaking with Emily Jones, who is a Derby-based photographer. But before we get started, I just wanted to give a bit of context to anyone that's maybe joining that doesn't know about East Meets West. So East Meets West is formed of 15 emerging photographers wishing to broaden their perspectives and push the boundaries of their personal development. And it's a masterclass programme organised by Format and Quad in Derby, Format International Photography Festival and Quad Derby, where I am the assistant curator, and Grain Projects Birmingham, and we are generously supported by Arts Council England. So if you're wondering what East Meets West is, it's a series of masterclasses where photographers are given advice and receive feedback from professionals within the industry. So this year we had people such as Abbas Sahedi, Colin Pantal, Claire Strand, Louise Fedotov Clements, Max Barnett, Matab Hussein, Monica Ayande, Sasha Caruana, Peter Murphy and Tom Seymour, who provided feedback regarding the participants' work. So building upon this feedback, the group used the assigned budget, which is given to the group as a collective to decide what they want to do, to create a self-directed outcome. So, and Emily will discuss that in more detail later, which is all part of why we're speaking today on Instagram Live. And it gives me great pleasure to be speaking with Emily, as she's my friend and also a photographer I admire and love, and I work with her. I was also at Quad, so it's great to be speaking with you, Emily. She is a photographer and creative project manager based in the Midlands. She's recently returned to Derby from studying in Coventry, where she achieved a first-class BA photography with international enhancement at UEM Madrid, and has just finished an internship with Grain Projects, and she's continuing to develop a career as an independent creative assistant and producer, in addition to working as a visitor service assistant at Quad Derby. We both miss Quad a lot at the moment. We haven't been there for so many months. So it's really great that we're using these digital forums. So Emily's photographic practice is based on the use of personal photographs, exploring themes of memory, belonging and familial relationships. By analysing the places and homes she grew up in, Emily uses domestic imagery to create a visual response to the relationships with her grandparents. Currently, she is undertaking the East Meets West Masterclass programme in association with, as I said earlier, Grain, Quad and Format in order to develop her practice. So that is kind of a brief insight as to what East Meets West is, who Emily is, but obviously that will all be kind of unveiled in better detail as the talk goes on. So yeah, thank you again. I've seen we've got 27 people watching, so it's great to see you.
Hi everyone.
So Emily, why are we here today talking on Instagram Live? Can you tell us a bit more about East Meets West, the website, everything else?
Yeah, so originally our plan was to have an exhibition at the same time as the Format portfolio reviews, which were meant to be in, was it March, April now? So we were going to hold an exhibition the same weekend there, showcasing all of the 15 photographers that are a part of the masterclass, and show off our publication that we've made, and all of the work and the feedback that we've had over the past 6 to 9 months. Obviously, due to obvious reasons, that was not the case. So we've decided to put everything online, create all this online content, and still share ourselves with everyone basically as much as we can. So we've got I think there's 13 altogether, 13 talks happening on Instagram Live, and we've also created the website, which I've been working on for the past couple of weeks and months. That has everything you need to know about East Meets West. And yeah, I think that's about it really.
That's great. And yeah, we had a talk, didn't we, this week on Tuesday with Andy Pillsbury, which is great. And then this is the second one, so it's always nerve-wracking being at the beginning, I think. So it's great that you both started this off. I really enjoyed Andy's talk, and I'm looking forward to talking about your work today. So I was in some of the masterclass sessions. It was great to see the work produced by all these amazing photographers, and a project that you discussed is called A Place of Familiarity, and I wondered if you could just share a bit about that project with people today.
Yeah, so the project began at uni, and it was kind of a way of me getting to know my family and my grandparents more after moving away, and you know, not really connecting with them as much as you do when you're home, and so just sort of growing up really. So I used like photography as a way to just sort of reconnect with both sets of grandparents, and especially after a series of a bit of ill health and separation and things like that. So it just gave me the opportunity to really get to know them more, and get to know their past and who they are and who they were without me and without my mum or my dad. So we started off by having these conversations over lots of cups of teas and just talking about their images that they had, and exploring where like they were from, because my grandma is from Cardiff, and you know, their experiences living here, and my granddad being part of a mixed race family in Nottingham, and just things like that. And it was a really eye-opening time for me to sort of experience these conversations. From that, I subconsciously, I think, was just really gravitated towards these pictures of their homes. So I re-photographed a lot of the same places in the images from the same perspective, and decided to merge these together in like a photo collage kind of way, I suppose. It kind of just a lot of it just sort of happened in a way where obviously you know, you do all this research and all of these things sort of subconsciously happen. I mean, I was listening to Johnny Briggs's talk last week, and a lot of the stuff he was saying, you know, it's a lot of the time you reflect afterwards on what it is you're saying. So I mean, I'll go on to show you some work before I go off on a tangent.
Yeah, that'd be great. And this started as your university project, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, so this was in my final year at uni, and this is the stuff that I showed at my degree show. And everything's kept in this little box that my granddad made for me as well, just sort of to reflect the box that he had in his that he kept some of his images in, actually. So I asked him to make it for me, and this is one of the prototypes, I suppose. So,
could you show the tears a bit closer to the screen?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that's great.
So the images are reprinted after I digitally manipulated some of them, and then I collaged them back together with masking tape.
And can you talk a bit more about like why you did that, and the kind of what that process was like for you?
Yeah, so the kind of getting to know the images more, it really felt quite important for me to just be quite physical with them, I suppose. So just there was a lot of experimenting with like scale and tearing them apart and collaging them with different images from past and present. So I combined like these images, and at first I was tearing them apart and not really taking care of the seams and it being like seamless. So I digitally manipulated them in order to sort of like make it feel a bit more connected, because these places haven't really changed, and when I was tearing them, they sort of looked like they had, and it didn't exist anymore, when they're all exactly how they were. And you know, I've lived in my house for 22 years, and collectively my grandparents have lived in their houses for like 60 years. So you know, it was really a good way to show that time passing and those memories that we hold in those images, and of when I was a child, and you know, when we were all just sort of spending time together as a family. So it was really important for me to really connect physically with them, but then also, you know, even though I digitally manipulate them, still having that connection to them is really important. I guess that's what the masking tape is really for.
Yeah, I understand that when you look through the photos, you're also having some conversations with your granddad about these images and recording them.
Yeah, so a lot of the feedback from the masterclass was how my words reflect my work, because I'm not the best at articulating what my work is about and what it means, and especially through like the written statements and the titles of images, because currently they're all untitled and they need to be titled, you know, to give a bit more context to what each of them mean and how I made it and what each thing says. So a lot of the feedback was how I can use these words to do that. So I'm trying to transcribe these videos and audio clips that I have from the very beginning of the process to see if that can really inform, you know, how I rewrite the work.
That's really nice. I think everyone's who's not with their families at the moment are missing their families so much. So I feel quite jealous that you've got this whole archive of memories to delve into and kind of use that within your work. And yeah, I think it's very clear through the Masterclass program. I mean, you're a recent graduate. You graduated last year.
Yeah, in November.
Yeah, so it just takes so long to become, I think, confident speaking about your work, and I think that's part of the Masterclass is kind of that. You just keep saying it over and over again.
Yeah, 100%. I think like I was completely out of my depth, and you know, when I started the Masterclass, but it was a good thing. You know, I need to get used to exploring my work and explaining it to people, and explaining it to people who don't know me. And you know, I'm sure a lot of the participants will tell you I was like a mess on the first class. I didn't know what I was doing. Everyone seemed so like put together, but I think that's a massive learning curve for like a graduate as well, is just how to talk about it outside of academia.
Yeah, definitely. I think, and that's the purpose of this Masterclass. Well, is I'm not trying to like plug it here. It's like it is aimed at people at all different stages in their careers. It makes it, you know, a really interesting conversation. And also, you know, I know that you've used this feedback to kind of think about how you discuss your work. So you've been looking at writing. Am I correct? Yeah. The writing around the work.
Yeah, Colin Pantel was really the main influence for that. Like, he was like, read out your right statement. How many of these words from like, you know, from all these theories is in your statement? And I was like, oh, check. And, you know, it needs to be more approachable. This is a really personal project. And I think he really taught me, you know, the writing aspect is incredibly important. You know, it's something you are taught and you do know, but it just needs to be more approachable. So yeah, his book is really influential.
So this is words like, you know, things that we see like identity, like kind of reframing the archive, all these kind of things that you kind of get used to reading in art language. And he tries to kind of say like unpick those terms and like, what is your work really trying to say? I think that's a really like challenging process, and so that's what you've kind of like during this lockdown period. You know, I think you can go one way or the other. You go super creative or active or healthy, or you kind of just chill and use that time for some needed respite. Have you been kind of thinking about how to write about your work during this time?
I think one of the things that the Masterclass and also uni taught me was to just write it down, just write. And like that's a lot of the things that I've been doing lately, you know, even if it's just like on notes on your phone, you know, and just writing a paragraph. And I've been going back through my sketchbooks as well, you know, going back to basics, going back to the beginning and reminding myself where this all started. So yeah, I think that's one technique that's really helpful, is to just get your ideas down on paper. But also, yeah, transcribing these audio clips and video clips is in seeing the words actually written down rather than in your like listening to it is important as well.
Yeah, I remember Natasha Caruana saying that as well, and how you always have this archive now. That's something you might come back to in 20 years from now. You know, you never know. And how you thought about it at the time, you also have that written down.
Yeah, I think like you say as well, lockdown's taught everybody to slow down, and the Masterclass taught me that as well. Like, this work doesn't need to be done in, you know, the time that you had at uni. And I knew coming out of it that it wasn't finished, and it won't be finished for ages, but it's something that I've always got in the back of my mind and always like to work on.
Yeah, well, I guess that's kind of it. As we're talking about beginnings, it's probably a good like start. So we've discussed a place of familiarity, which is kind of I guess kind of like your like key body of work at the moment, one that you've been working on since you graduated and like talking about through the Masterclass. And it's clear that you were interested, you know, in archives, family, like domestic imagery, kind of manual processes. But I guess, you know, you are kind of, you know, a recent graduate, you know, you've kind of at the forefront of the start of your career. So I guess, you know, and I'm wondering, I think when you, like, I look back at what I did for my BA, or anybody that when they kind of start in their first projects in whatever context, I think those sorts of projects start of kind of the beginnings of kind of what you're interested in. And maybe some people do completely veer off in another direction, but this is kind of your start of what your key interests. So I'm guessing, you know, what was your background that led you into studying photography? What hopes did you have for that course, you know, from the beginning, and how you got there?
That's a good question. So I was always like interested in art and photography, and did it at GCSE level, A level, and then it was just like a natural thing for me to study at uni, because I was like, I'm okay. I suppose I enjoy it. It was the best subject that I did. So yeah, it just seemed like a natural progression. But I don't really feel like I took it genuinely seriously until I did my internship with the Coventry Biennial in 2017, and then moving abroad as well. I all before my final year, I just sort of came back and was like, right, I'm ready. Let's hit this final year. Like, I really want to like really progress with my photography and really progress with the project that I want to make. So I think that's really like the biennial, especially, you know, sparking this interest in making work and seeing how people were making a living out of it and sharing their work with other people across a huge festival. And also that being the first festival, it was really inspiring as well, how much we could share and how much, you know, places in the Midlands wanted to see art as well. Like, that's also a really important thing for me, I guess, and that's what that those places you can find it, especially in the Midlands, especially in Derby. So yeah, I hope that answers.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you know, I'm from Birmingham, and I think for me, like, kind of becoming part of finding people that I you know, volunteered, and that's kind of when I met friends and started like finding people that were trying to do the same thing as me. I'm still friends with them now. So I think those kind of initial, especially within the Midlands, as you say, like, you know, what they're doing the Coventry Biennial is amazing. If anyone hasn't seen, check out what their next edition is. It looks really exciting with a great roster of artists. And also festivals are just so different to exhibitions. They're so lively and fun, and you kind of see kind of the magnetic quality of bringing people together. So I can imagine that was a really influential experience for you.
Yeah, I definitely think as well, like, I also volunteered at format, like you just said, volunteering, it's really important. Like, I met quite a lot of people that I didn't know in Derby were interested in the same things as me. So, you know, you never know who you're going to meet at these places, and what ideas it's going to create, and, you know, the interest it's going to spark. So
yeah, okay, great. So I've got another question. And this is actually something we didn't discuss on the masterclass, to my knowledge, and it's who or what influences you?
Okay, so a lot of the stuff that originally inspired this my work or the project was a lot of reading, a lot of artists, a lot of talks. So for me, talks and exhibitions are like so inspiring. They keep me engaged with what's happening, and, you know, motivated to make work. So I mean, just last week, like I mentioned earlier, I listened to the Johnny Briggs talk with Grain. They do photo cafes every month. Same with Photo Forum with Quad. You know, these kind of things keep the conversations going. So that is a massive inspiration for me, is to constantly listen to what other people are doing now and their practices, and how they're like going ahead with their practice and where they're showing, and yeah, their methodologies and things like that.
Yeah, I guess, have you had any kind of experiences where that's been, I think we like, didn't you work, like, do you like supporting artists or anything like that?
Yeah, so with my internship with Green, I did some assisting with Arpita Shah and Kate Peters. So Arpita, she's doing a body of work called Modern Muse, and that's they're all Green commissions. And that's her work is based around working with South Asian women in Birmingham and in the Midlands to celebrate that community and you know, their heritage and where they're from. But also, you know, that relationship she has with her participants is really important, and where, you know, them sharing that experience, it was a pleasure to really get to know them and get to know the project. But also one that inspired me was Celebrating Age with Kate Peters, so and Stephen Burke as well. That project was really resonated with me, because they went into Lenchurch Trust, so they have a series of residential homes for people 60 plus, and they go into these homes and discuss their lives through conversations, lots of teas and biscuits as well, and just through their archives and objects and their memories of like the 1900s. And that was just such a pleasure to be a part of, and hearing people, because I love hearing their stories. I love getting to know who they are and who they were and where they've come from. And yeah, that was like a really inspirational project.
Yeah, that sounds great, and it totally relates to kind of your work and how you think, yeah, and your actually approach when, you know, I've had the pleasure of meeting Emily, kind of how she is, and inquisitive and very open and wants to talk to people. So that makes sense, and it's great that you've had that support, like, you know, from these Midlands organisations like Grain,
Yeah,
who
definitely.
co-run this masterclass with Format and Quad. So that's really great to hear. And I guess, yeah, so I guess as well, like, you know, as we said earlier, you've been working on this this project for a while, place familiarity, and yeah, I think it's always a really hard transition when you go from university where there's deadlines and you're kind of within this network of people that are doing the same thing as you at the same time, like, and now you're kind of done the masterclass, like, so what projects do you hope to do next, or anything that you'd like to do next, really?
So I think building on what it is that on the feedback that I've got given from the masterclasses, so, you know, rewriting my artist statements and things like that, but more at the minute my focus is more professionally, so gaining these more experiences like the masterclass, but also like my internships and my roles at Quad, you know, progressing with those and networking even more, and finding these opportunities that enable me to create and produce work and events and exhibitions, even like just the website. You know, I was gutted that we couldn't do the actual exhibition, but you know, you can still find an opportunity in building this website. So eastmeetswestphoto.co.uk. So yeah, anything like that is really what I'm looking for, to just sort of focus on building my professional experience, because I mean, it will be hard, but you know, it always is.
Yeah, totally. But before we move on, we've had a question. So we'll ask you. This is about, so thank you, Seb, for your question, which and anyone that would like to ask questions, please do. There's a Q&A feature function, and it's, so Seb asked 2 questions. So does Emily feature in her collages, and what does her family think about her work? Which are both really great questions. Thanks, Seb.
Yeah. I do and I don't. I do feature kinda. The thing is, so I'm a twin. If I mean, a lot of you might not know me, but so, and we look quite alike, and we definitely did when we were younger. So I think a lot of them, we don't know which one's which. So I do feature, and we both, for example, I think you might be able to see that.
Oh,
Yeah.
you can tell who the twins are.
And with this one, with me and my granddad as well. So I do feature in them, but like the people that were in the images, obviously they're all family members. It wasn't like I didn't pick an image because somebody wasn't there or somebody is there. It was just it was really about like the places that we were in and the memories that each one held. So no image was selected for like the person in it, I suppose. Well, not consciously, maybe subconsciously, but like I said earlier, it's kind of one of those things where you look back and think, oh, why did I pick that one? But yeah, I guess I do feature. And to answer your second question, they like it. I suppose they all came to the degree show and were like really surprised at what was actually there. And because I did make some portraits and some still life images as well to go along with the project. But yeah, my grandma saw it and she was like, Emily, where's the rest of it? So you know, they are intrigued by it. I think it's really clever that the images look basically how our houses look now, and I think maybe some of them were surprised by that, because despite, you know, the time passed, nothing really has changed in some ways, but then emotionally and physically I guess a lot has. So I hope that answers your question, Seb. Oh, she said woohoo, fellow twins.
Yeah, that's it's really good to think about, actually. Thanks for that question. I guess if anyone asks any questions about Emily's process, please do feel free to ask. I feel like I want to think of more things to ask now, because it was really lovely to hear that. Or I guess because we had okay. Well, actually, I guess one thing that you and I have discussed recently is kind of this idea of like, you know, looking back at these images, and you said, you know, connecting the dots and using writing, and like how you feel you'll move with these images kind of as you develop and, you know, age. So I guess, you know, we were talking about this yesterday, what were we saying?
I think in terms of lockdown, we mentioned that quite a bit, in like, you know, obviously you not being with your family and me spending too much with mine. I think now the work sort of, I think, says a lot about how everyone's been forced to do that, you know, spend time away or with friends and family, and we can all see common like similarities and familiarities in the images, and I think that's what brings us all a bit of comfort, like, you know, like you saying, oh, it made me miss my family. Like it's obviously, I don't want you to miss your family, but you know, it is that kind of thing where we all have that sense of nostalgia with these images, and it's a comfort. You know, I think that's a lot of the reason why I picked home as a focus, you know, that comfort and that, you know, safety net, and not having to deal with the fears of, you know, they're not being here forever. You know, that, because those sort of themes really, I think, run deep in these images. But yeah, I think like in terms of lockdown, I think it really hopefully makes everyone think about, you know, their relationships to the family. And you know, you probably have as well spent some time going over images. I mean, I put everything that we had into albums, so I don't know if you probably spend the same amount of time going through your own images and what you have.
Yeah. No, it's true. I've got a very small album here in Derby, but my mum and dad have got like stacks and stacks of photos. So that's a, you know, generational difference, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so one question I did want to ask as well is, you know, like something I found when I graduated like a while back now, but it's a really hard time for students to come out of university, like be faced with, you know, finding a job and all that. So I guess, what are the challenges that you found as a photography graduate kind of entering into the professional world?
I think a really big challenge was I just did not feel prepared when I finished uni, because I was so focused on making this work and doing the degree show and just finishing uni. I didn't really think too much past that until like the very last minute. So that sort of shocked me in a way, and like the fear of realizing how am I going to support myself wanting to do like a creative job. But I think you just sort of crack on, like you stumble on it, don't you stumble upon these opportunities, and it doesn't matter how many you can apply for. You can apply for, you know, 20 and only get one, if that. But it's that opportunity. Like when I got the Grainy internship, it was an incredible opportunity, and they've been so helpful and nurturing and motivating, and really like gave me all the advice in the world. And same when I got the opportunity at Quad, you know, having a review with you when I first met you, you know, we sat down for like an hour to 2 hours just chatting about work. You know, you're never going to know who you're going to meet in these like opportunities. So, you know, although it is going to be tough, and my heart goes out to people graduating in COVID-19, because my sister's done it as well, and it's not nice. It's not the experience that you're hoping for, but I think like that's what makes the opportunities that are coming towards you even better, and like motivates you to really like make the most of those.
Yeah, that's really great. And I think that shows kind of within the group how, you know, it's this whole initiative to create a website and to shift things online in this series of talks, and to create a publication which will be ready when?
So it's gone to print.
Okay, great.
Printed, and it will be sent out to those that are on the mailing list, but also if because we've only managed to print I think 200 copies, so but it'll go on to the website soon. There's a link on the publication page to sign up to, when like to be notified when it's there.
Amazing. Okay, well I can't wait to see it.
And
Yeah, I've seen some comments. I thought it'd just be nice to say those. So I had a comment from Megan, and she thought it's worth it as well to put all the family's photos in albums, otherwise they're so unorganized. And I was like, yeah, I completely agree. And Seb put, it's a shame that we don't take thousands of photos on our it's a shame we take thousands of photos on our phone but don't print anymore. And yeah, I think that's, you know, when we talk about these photos, that's what I was thinking. Like I was like, oh, I wish I had something physical to like, or like all the photos that are at home in boxes that aren't having anything done with them.
Yeah, I think that's what makes it special, you know, like passing these objects around. And my grandparents also wasn't just photographs they had in this big suitcase of their albums, you know, they had like frames and wedding gifts. And you know, like my grandparents, I ended up photographing loads of teapots that my grandma has that's like sentimental to her. So you know, it isn't also just about the photograph, you know, it can be about the objects that you relate to your family as well.
Yeah, and those memories will always be so precious, you know. I think that feeling will never go. For when you feel like you need to take that photo, you know, you'll always remember why you took it.
Even if it's on your phone.
Yeah, even if it's on your phone. Okay, so yeah, Nicola is also who's going to be doing a talk, I believe. Yes, she is. Yes, she is. Is also saying how it's going to be fantastic publication. So I'd really encourage everybody to look at this amazing website that Emily's been working on. The website is www.eastmeetswestphoto.co.uk. And equally as important, if it's not obvious, look at Emily Jones's work. And her website is emilyjonesphotography.co.uk. And her Instagram handle should be somewhere hopefully on this page, but if not, it's at MEM Jones Photo. Very easy to remember. And it's probably a good chance to say that the next event will be with my lovely colleague Neve Tracy, who's the format coordinator, and she'll be in conversation with Jackie Booth, who's another East Meets West participant and photographer, and that'll be from 8 o'clock on Tuesday the 4th of July. And then this is a series of talks, as you said, so they're happening every Tuesday, Thursday and Sunday. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe so. All of the event details are on the website, like you say.
Yeah, so that's a great, just go check there. They're free, they're here, you can ask questions. And there's going to be a really great kind of almost like closing event, and it's a photo cafe event, which is a fantastic event organised by Grain. But it's going to be with all the East Meets West participants, and that is going to be on Wednesday the 19th of August at 6 o'clock. Is there anything that you can say which is going to really make sure people can come back to it? What's going to be in this event?
Well, by then we'll have the publication, so that'll be good. But also, you know, it's going to be just discussing our journey from the exhibition to the online content, how the masterclass has helped a couple of us, because I think there's 6 of us doing it. So you know, and we all do really different things as well. Our practices are so different. So hopefully we'll be sharing a bit of an insight, if we have time, into each of those. So if you miss any of the artist talks in conversation with we're doing on here, you know, come to the photo cafe and you can definitely get a good idea of who we are and what we are doing.
Yeah, I completely agree. I will be there, and it's free, and you can get tickets on the East Meets West photo website and by Grain's website. So there's been some really lovely comments coming through, Emily. Everyone's saying how wonderful it is to hear about your work, which I'm not surprised by. And yeah, so thank you, Emily, so much for being the second person in conversation in this amazing series of conversations and telling us about your work.
Yeah, lovely to chat to you. Take care, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, bye.